Hey, all you amazing people! Welcome to Love on Record, the podcast where we turn up the volume on stories of love, connection, and the wild, wonderful ways that people are shaping a kinder world. Every episode, we hit record on conversations that remind us that we have the power to choose love each and every day. So whether you're on your morning commute, cooking up something delicious, or just taking a break, join us for this incredible conversation.
Hi, I'm Wendy White and founder of Let's Choose Love, and I'd like to welcome you to our next episode of Love on Record with Maya Hammoud, who started a project called the Perception Foundation along with her sister. And she's going to share all about that and about who she is and where they're from and a little bit about the start of the projects. Welcome to Love on Record.
Thank you so much for having me. My name is Maya Hammoud, and I am 17 years old, and I have a twin sister named Laura. Our project, the Perception Foundation, actually started when we were much younger in elementary school. Our passion or inspiration behind the project was actually when we met our best friend with autism. When we first met him, we didn't really understand what autism was or what neurodiversity even was. We just noticed that a lot of our classmates would almost bully him or isolate him, and we didn't really understand why. And so one day, Laura and I decided to follow him to our school sensory room. And that was the first time we ever were in a sensory space like that. From there, our friendship just fostered and bloomed for the next 5 years of elementary school.
So, what exactly is a sensory room for those people that may not be familiar with that?
Yeah, a sensory room is a space that is especially designed with controlled lighting, controlled sounds, controlled objects. Some common items are like weighted blankets, fidget toys. Sometimes they have these things called like sensory seating, where they kind of put pressure on the side of someone to help them like calm down. And the main people who use sensory rooms can essentially be anyone, but the most predominant uses are those with neurodevelopmental disorders, mental health issues, and trauma.
It's pretty amazing that your
Yeah.
elementary school had one right on
Yeah.
site. So, what grade were you and your sister in when you first noticed that this was happening to one of your classmates?
Yeah, we were in first grade when we met our best friend.
Wow. So what was it that compelled you? Because there's a lot of people that get bullied in school. You know,
Yeah.
it's a big issue right now. And I mean, I'm amazed at you and your sister's heart that you wanted to reach out. So what was it that drew you? And then what were some of the benefits in reaching out and
Yeah.
starting this conversation?
So he was actually since Laura and I were in the same homeroom, he was actually in our homeroom, and we would always see him kind of playing with just different toys like trucks or even sharks. Sharks were actually his like favorite toy.
Mhm.
And so we never really understood kind of like why he was different. Like we could tell that like some kids would make fun of him, but we didn't really understand. And like our teachers would say he has autism, but they never really explained like what autism was. And as like a 6-year-old, oftentimes I think we're more naive of what's going on and we're more willing and open to everyone.
Yeah. I'm curious, and we'll get into the project, but how has your relationship, because I think you said he's one of your best friends now,
Yeah.
right? And what is his name? Can you just share his first name?
Oh yeah, his name is Dylan.
Dylan. Yeah. So, what has been one of the benefits of your friendship with Dylan? I mean,
Yeah.
we can imagine the benefit for him, being somebody that hasn't been included. That's huge when somebody reaches out and extends their love in that way. But how has it benefited you and your sister?
Yeah, so I think the best thing about us is that not only did it really show us the field, but in everything we do, we kind of see our best friend in it. And it's a big motivation for all of our work because we know that like every single room we build, every event we hold, it's all going to support people like our best friend and
Well,
give him that support he couldn't have.
yeah. Well, how did you even find out about Let's Choose Love?
So we actually found out about Let's Choose Love. It was a little bit after we actually built our first sensory room for our best friend. After we had built that sensory room, we were looking around and we saw this huge disparity or kind of lack in these public sensory rooms. And so we were like, okay, we want to start building these rooms, but we actually needed money. At that time, the foundation was not a formalized C3 yet. And we needed money for like our passion project, what it was called. And so we looked at kind of like the top youth grants and top teen grants, and we came across Let's Choose Love. And so we applied for the application as to building a sensory room at a high school near us.
I love it. And you got the grant, which we were
Yeah.
so happy to give because we really wanted to support the two of you and support Dylan and the work you were doing. But can you share what did you actually do with that grant?
So we actually built our first public sensory room, as we call it, at Dearborn High School, which is a high school near us, and they have a very large special education classroom. We use those funds to build their first kind of sensory room in the school and kind of foster the environment that the special ed teacher really wanted in her classroom, but she was never able to afford.
That makes me feel so good to think that Let's Choose Love Grants was able to do that. But what was some of the impact of having that room available at the school?
Yeah, so a lot of them have found that like it really helped the students perform not only in the classroom, like helping them kind of calm down or stop them from being overstimulated, but some of them even found that it helps them be better prepared for like exams or even just learning time. And in some of our other sensory rooms as well, since we've kind of expanded to more sensory environments, they've also found that it helps stop bullying, it promotes more inclusion to the classroom and to those students who have other neurodevelopmental disorders because people are kind of more aware of the space because they're being integrated into public spaces. So people see them and they start understanding more about them.
Wow, that's amazing. When I think about the trajectory, you and your sister were first grade. You saw a friend, you reached out, extended your love, and you did your first sensory room was private. So Let's Choose Love was the first one that you made that was more public. That
Yeah.
was 2 years ago. That was not long ago. And tell me, what's transpired since then? Because when you started sharing me the level of your growth, I mean, it was pretty astronomical in those 2 years.
So we've been really lucky. We've been running the foundation since like 2020. And a lot of our first sense rooms were actually private rooms for individuals at their houses or just kind of like private facilities. But it was often very hard to get funding for public sensory rooms. So Let's Choose Love was one of our first public sensory rooms. And once we did that, we posted pictures on our social media and we actually got some press on that. And that just like launched everything because it started raising awareness, especially in our community, about these public sensory rooms. And then kind of it was like a domino effect as we built more and more sensory rooms, we just kept getting more grant money and we kept getting more press and more people asking for these rooms. And then we started expanding into more sensory initiatives. So for those that already have sensory rooms, but kind of need our like model, because one of the things we made at the foundation is the first ever kind of cost-effective sensory room model, because normally they cost over $30,000, which are out of reach for most people, including our best friend. And so we developed a model that's 96.7% cheaper and ranges from $250 to $1,000 to make these spaces like more accessible. That was one of the biggest things to our growth because when you kind of were able to scale that cost down and we were able to kind of retain the benefit of these spaces, but at a more affordable price, we were able to be more conservative with our grant money and build more spaces at more time. And we were able to get kind of larger grants and more investments in us to keep expanding at like that exponential rate.
I think it's mind-boggling to think
Yeah.
of where you started. You're just 17 and how much you've grown so far is quite inspiring.
Yeah, so when we first started off, we were with one private sensory room for our best friend. When we got the Let's Choose Love, I think we had built in a few sensory rooms already, but all of them were private. And so that was our first public sensory room. And then after Let's Choose Love, I think we were maybe, I don't know the exact number of sensory rooms we were at that time point, but I know once we got that one grant, we had an influx. I think it was like that week after we had posted the room, we got like a lot of requests. I think it was like maybe like 5 to 10 requests just for sensory rooms alone. And then since then, we've just been like actively growing. And like today, we've completed over 260 sensory resources, kind of as sensory kits and even full on sensory rooms.
Beyond just Michigan, correct?
Yeah, beyond Michigan. Yeah. And we've done them in like a lot of like ranging facilities. We've done like refugee aids, we've done a lot of schools, we've done medical clinics, and we're really happy that we're starting this like trend in Michigan, especially with like pediatric clinics kind of integrating almost sensory rooms in their examination rooms. So like if a kid needs to get shots or they're very overwhelmed, they're able to put them in the sensory room and actually perform the tasks better that they would have to. And we've also built in them in museums as well, lots of community centers. And so we're kind of really happy to be seeing these places integrated into spaces they never were before.
That's amazing. And so you were naming some numbers you've done so far, and you've gone overseas as well.
Yeah, so for our foundation in total, kind of as of August 2025, impacted 365,000 individuals kind of from our various initiatives at the foundation. One of our biggest initiatives is our youth-led branches, and we have over 81 branches across 20 countries that kind of further the mission of our foundation. And kind of all of us work together to create our 260 plus sensory resources, so sensory kits or sensory rooms. We've planned over 30 plus sensory friendly events. So those can be like sensory friendly swimming, holidays, back to school fairs. So just events that people are normally excluded from or isolated from, just integrating those into the community. And we're also really happy to announce one of our new initiatives is like a new new pre-K 3 through grade 12 curriculum. Since we were really lucky at first grade to be really introduced to autism, most students aren't. And so we've developed this free curriculum for schools that's actually going to be implemented kind of across the US, hopefully this coming fall, to kind of introduce kids to kind of autism and neurodevelopmental disorders from a very young age and to produce more understanding around them.
Those are phenomenal numbers, and that is exponential growth. And
Yeah.
anybody in any business or nonprofit would be proud of. You've really been able to extend your love and
Yeah.
massive ease. How big of a team do you have? Is it still just you and your sister running the foundation?
No, we're very large now.
I was going to say, I mean, I'm in high school and I run this international foundation, so I imagine it had to expand a bit.
So we've definitely had to grow our executive board kind of for all the international branches. And the way we operate is so in each of our 20 countries, they each have their own board. So they have a president, vice president, secretary, treasurer that's in charge of electing regional presidents, and they run it as just like a basic management model. So we have the international presidents who do like they run the whole country. And then underneath them, if it's like the US, we have like statewide presidents. But for other internationals, they divide it into regions or cities. And those people operate for the city. And then underneath them, they have like different neighborhood or school branches.
Wow. So do you train the people that are taking over the
Yeah.
different roles? So
Yeah.
that's part of how you built. And are they all student led or?
Yeah. Our biggest thing is that we're really happy to be student led. We have it kind of ranging from like we have some middle school branches to all the way up to college. And so we train them on how to run a nonprofit, how to grant write, how to do advocacy, but also kind of how to find your passion. And we do that kind of with our youth-led branches, but also through some of our other partnerships. Recently, we started some partnerships with the Girl Scouts of Kentucky, and we've been running courses with them kind of on neurodiversity, but also STEM and advocacy. And we also help them kind of run their like disability awareness camp this, I think it was June, in the forest in Kentucky.
So impressive. I'm curious, can you share a story, just like one of your favorite stories that has
Yeah.
come from this? I think people would love to be able to hear what does this look like in action?
Yeah. I have a few kind of favorite moments. I think it's kind of across the 10 years of experience they've come. I think one of the biggest ones is that we had built a sensory room at a community center and we were running a almost like just holiday event, like a summer holiday event. One of the women had told us that she has two sons, one who was 18 and had autism and the other one who was 22 and he did not have a neurodevelopmental disorder. And so she came up to us and she gave us a hug. And I remember she said that this was the first time in 18 years she'd actually been able to take her son out of the house and have him actually participate in holidays with his brother.
Wow.
That was really impactful.
That just like touches my heart thinking
Yeah.
about that.
And then I think another one is that as we were running some of our courses with the Girl Scouts, I remember one of the girls was telling us how she wanted to be, it was a veterinary rock star. And so she was asking us what we had done. And so we're really involved in the research of autism and neurodevelopmental disorders. So we found like actually like novel diagnostics and treatments for NDDs. And with that research, we found like first place in the world at the International Science and Engineering Fair. And we were kind of sharing our story with her. And she told us kind of for the first time, seeing girls who looked like her achieve this really inspired her to kind of keep going and pursue her dream of being like a veterinary rock star. So that was very sweet as well.
Veterinary rock star. You gotta love that. You don't usually put the two together, but I
No.
think it's like dancing with dogs, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I do with my puppy all the time, by the way. But we like to do it. But so with that, what are your plans for the future? I know that you're entering into your senior year, is
Junior
it?
of high school. Yeah.
And yeah, what is your plans afterwards and how do you see this carrying on?
Yeah. So our biggest goal is to keep running the foundation as much as we can. And so I think our next steps for the foundation are going to be trying to expand to more countries because we're currently in 20. We think that having as many branches as we can, especially having them like well implemented, is the best way to ensure the longevity of our nonprofit. We've been training all of our branches and we're actively trying to recruit more chapters to help us pursue our mission. And I think on the other side of that, we want to expand to more sensory resources and expand the impact and reach of our curriculum. We want to keep building sensory rooms, keep hosting more events and kits, and we want to start reaching more students kind of maybe past the US and maybe in Europe or other countries as well with our curriculum.
What do you think was key to your success? Because you've cracked the nut that a lot of other nonprofits and foundations try to do.
Yeah.
At scaling and in such a short period of time to make that level of impact. What do you think was your critical success factors in making that happen?
Yeah, I think because definitely we've had enormous growth within 5 years. I think the biggest thing was that we were really lucky in kind of our environment that there was a lot of support, whether it was Let's Choose Love or even all the other grants. The way it worked for us is that we were really lucky that the minute we got one thing, it just multiplied. Because I think one of the good things we really did is that we did like a lot of social media posting about all of our work, and we made our website very early on. And I think that helped it get like a lot of traction and support. And I think it also helped because I know a lot of people think being young is like a hindrance, but okay, we were like 6 when we got involved in the field, but like maybe like 13, 14 when we formally founded the nonprofit. I think that got a lot of people's attention that these young people were doing that. But I think even despite the age, I think it was that presence online. And we were really lucky that we got a few podcasts and press early on that really helped us get our name out there. And as we kept getting our name out there, we got invited to more and more conferences. We've been invited to like the International Conference on Autism and Neurodevelopmental Disorders, some local ones also here in Michigan, like the Michigan Community Mental Health Association. And so just through all the conferences and like all the press, I feel like it's just really helped us get our name out there. And then so when we were younger, especially when we first started off in like 2020, we were like actively like pitching, like, hey, do you want a sensory room? Hey, do you want a sensory room? Whereas now, kind of since our name is out there and we have like more press on us and like a more of a digital presence, I think a lot more people are finding us, especially when they're searching up sensory spaces and they're able to ask us like, hey, will you help us build?
I love it. And what have you been most proud of with all of this for you
Yeah.
personally?
I think my biggest, almost like proudest moment of the foundation, I think it's all the different lives we've touched. And I think one of my favorite aspects of the foundation, I think, is definitely our sensory friendly events, because I really enjoy the sensory friendly events where we actually get to go down to the communities and actually volunteer with the kids and firsthand see the benefits and almost like their smiles and their experiences.
What is your plans for the future? I know you want to go to college. What do you want to
Yeah.
study? Because most people are going to think you're going to study more about this foundation, but you really are going in a different direction.
Yeah,
A
so
little bit about.
my goal to study in college is it's either going to be chemical engineering or biophysics, because one part of our nonprofit is actually focused on researching kind of the cause and diagnosis for neurodevelopmental disorders. And so Laura and I actually did research in a lab where we discovered like a novel genetic diagnosis for NDDs that could be potentially done at around 13 weeks of pregnancy, and a potential therapy that in like preliminary trials has like a 97% recovery of like normal brain development. And so I think I definitely want to continue around that kind of chemical engineering biophysics route to kind of develop the capsules to kind of deliver this therapy. But I also want to do like a double major in either public policy or social studies, because I really want to learn more about kind of like on the government infrastructural level, how did these changes arise? How can we use that management skills to kind of continue to grow our nonprofit? And potentially, if we want to go into like the legislative route as well, how we could potentially integrate some of these sensory spaces, sensory resources into like legislative bills as well.
Wow, I love how you dream so big. And there's like, saying like if you can't dream it, you can't ever get there. So the
Yeah.
first part is to have a vision of what's possible and then do it. And you've had
Yeah.
a lot of experience where you have visions and you've been able to accomplish it, which is a pretty amazing thing to have experienced,
Yeah.
especially as a young person, taking that into as you go to college and go out into the world even more.
Definitely.
You
I think
still,
that I think that's been a very big part of our growth as well as the nonprofit, because every year or every quarter or like we do it, we set a goal for the nonprofit, and like no matter kind of how unrealistic it may seem, that's what our goal is for the year. A few years ago when we actually started making our branches, our initial goal was we're going to get 50 branches in 15 countries.
Mhm.
And so we set up for that goal, and at first that seemed like very lofty and very unachievable. And we just were like, we're going to stick with it and we're going to try anyway. And we actually surpassed that goal. It was very soon actually after we hit the 50 and 15. We surpassed, I think it was about 3 to 4 weeks later, we actually ended up hitting our 81 branches in over 20 countries.
You definitely tapped into something that's really, really needed that people feel passionate about that
Yeah.
didn't know how to do, and you guys have given the mechanisms to be able to make it happen.
Yeah.
As you reflect and you think about sharing your experience or your advice with other people who want to like extend their love in the world and want to follow passion projects, what advice do you have for them?
I think the biggest thing is that a lot of people think they need to do it themselves, but I was really lucky I had my twin sister with me the whole time. It was really helpful having like a co-founder or someone to help you out. But I think the biggest thing is also finding your network of people. For us, really early on, that was applying to passion project grants like Let's Choose Love. And that really helped us get the basis to grow exponentially, and also kind of trying to form community partners as well. Because when we were young, we were like 13, 14, just starting off. A lot of people weren't necessarily willing to take a 14-year-old seriously, kind of proposing a sense room. So it took partnerships with kind of respected autism organizations in our area to build us up credibility until we had enough experience. I wouldn't say we're like experts yet because we're only 17, more regard in the field as a whole. So it's kind of definitely building your network of people, kind of whether it's like a co-founder organizations that can support you and you can collaborate with each other.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story and your insights. We celebrate with you. Can't wait to hear. But really appreciate your time and I'm so excited to have had the opportunity to partner with you,
Thank
Steve.
you so much for supporting us early on.
That's a wrap on this episode of Love on Record. Thanks so much for tuning in and letting a little extra love into your ears today. If you loved this conversation, and we know you did, make sure to check out all the details about our guest in the description. Go show them some love too. And hey, don't forget to subscribe, share this episode with someone who could use a boost of love, and keep the ripple going. Until next time, stay loud, stay kind, and keep choosing love.